All right, here we go with the third question in this problem. We've already found the height model, which is the equation we're using. We have found how long it takes for the ball to hit the ground. Now we're on question C. At what time will the ball be 8 feet off the ground? So think about where that goes into our model, our equation here. At what time? So again, we're finding what t equals in this problem. So think about what you're being asked to find. And then the ball is going to be 8 feet off the ground. Well, that is a height at a certain time. So we're wanting to know that time. So let's put in an 8 here. And let's see if we can solve for t. Whoops, 6. Okay. So we have that. We're looking at the height of 8. Okay. So to do this, we want it to equal 0, right? We need this equation to equal 0 so that we can use the quadratic formula. So 0 equals, and then I'll just bring everything down. 6 minus 8 is -2. Okay, so now we have everything we need for quadratic formula, A, B, and C, -16, 72, and -2. Okay, so remember your quadratic formula is on your Algebra 1 formula sheet, which there will be a link right below, or I mean, it's just in your dashboard under Algebra Resources. So it's right there. All right. So the formula says -b, so -72 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, and all of that's over 2a, -16. Okay, so I've plugged in b and then a and then c. Okay. And so I want to figure out what's underneath the radical first. So I'm going to try to bring the calculator over here. Oh my goodness. And try to put it where you can see it plainly. Okay, so I'm going to do just the discriminant. So 72 squared minus 4 times -16 times -2 is 5,056. Okay, big numbers. So let's just go ahead and see what that is as a square root. Yeah, not an exact number. It does tell us in these directions that I have kind of covered up that we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So it makes sense that our answer is going to be a decimal. Okay, so -72 plus or minus the square root of 5,056, which we just found is about 71.1056 is what I'm going to do. Now I know that the directions say to go to the nearest tenth, but I don't want to round twice any more than I have to. So I'm going to keep it a longer decimal just for now, just to keep it more exact. All right. And 2 times -16 is -32. Okay. So here's where I'm going to split this apart and change the color. All right. I'm going to do this once with a plus sign. So I'm going to erase. I want to have lots of space here. So I've got -72 plus 71.1056 over -32. That is one of my solutions. And then the other is with a minus, it's plus or minus. So -72 minus all of that. Now, let me just pause and say real quick, I'm kind of breezing through this part. So if you're struggling with quadratic formula, you're going to want to go back and just look at just plain quadratic formula without all the word problems surrounding it and all of that sort of thing. And I'll put a link up for that to go back to that, where I walk you through it in more like explaining a lot more of what I'm doing here. This is if you've had a good bit of practice with quadratic formula and that's not so much the part that you're needing help with. Okay, so let me bring the calculator back over. Maybe I should erase a little bit. Okay, I don't want to take off that last part. All right. So I'm going to type it in all as one fraction. Negative 72 plus over negative 32. All right. I get 0.0, and we're going to go to the 10th now because we're at our final answer. The 2 goes up because of that 7 to a 3. All right, and now I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to change, instead of negative 72 plus, it'll be negative 72 minus. So, okay, when I subtract, I get 4.5. So about 4.5. Okay. Now, what in the world does that mean? So when we get these two answers, think about if we, think about like what a graph would look like. We've thrown this ball upward from a height of 6 feet. So if this is 6 feet and I throw the ball upwards into the air, and then at some point it falls down, and this is time, right? The X value is time. The ground is 0. So that makes sense that it's down here at 0. And at some point in time it hits the ground. But the question is, when will it be 8 feet off the ground? Well, if this is approximately 8 feet, I see that it's going to be on the way up, it's going to be at 8 feet. And on the way down, it's going to be at 8 feet again. That baseball has traveled through the air at that level, and it was at 8 feet in 2 places, in 2 points in time. So whereas the last question, we only had one answer, there was only one point in time when it hit the ground at 4.6 seconds. This is telling us that it's going to be 8 feet off the ground 2 times. One is 0.03 seconds after it's thrown. And that makes sense. If you throw the ball from 6 feet to get to 8 feet, I mean, that's a really small amount. It should be very quick. And in this case, it is 0.03 seconds. And it's also going to be there as it comes back down to the ground after 4.5 seconds. And notice how close that is to when it actually does hit the ground. We found a moment ago was 4.6 seconds. So it's all happening super fast. This entire process happens in less than 5 seconds, right? So, okay. So there's a connection for you, and hopefully that helps you to understand why there are 2 answers to this question. All right, and we'll look at one more thing in the next one.